And in the cop car, the song I Can't Get No Satisfaction was playing. It was a Rolling Stones song, and I'm sitting there like this, and I'm just thinking, my life can't get worse than this at this moment. I always have clients and fans and enthusiasts of curated say to me, wow, you guys have grown so quickly, or you've been so successful in only a few years. But I really think the true success of any great entrepreneur is sometimes the failures and disasters of their career. When I first started Palm Beach Supercar Show, which was a very small event, but it got a ton of traction because Donald Trump hosted all of the supercar owners at his $100 million estate. And I sort of used that small fame at the time in the newspaper articles and the photo of me and Trump to sort of boost my success, and started reaching out to people to actually plan this supercar show much bigger. And in 2007, I started organizing the first official Palm Beach Supercar Weekend. And that event was just so special because we hosted it at basically the Polo Grounds in Wellington. And no one had really done anything like this with modern supercars at that time. And that was such an exciting time for supercars. You had cars like an Enzo, you had cars like an SLR, Murcielago manuals, all these interesting cars that were just coming to the market. And the show was very well received. 2007, we had like 100 supercars, including the collection of Michael Fuchs. That year, we actually had Jim Glickenhaus bring the Ferrari P45 to the event, which was completely insane. No one had ever seen the car before that moment, so it was the first time it was really publicly shown in the US. Went on, and I got a ton of great press, and imagine, I was very, very young at this point. I believe I was like 18 or 19 years old. During that period, I met another young gentleman, really sort of a suave, sort of playboy type guy. In many ways, he was almost like this James Bond figure that moved to Palm Beach. He started sort of making a name for himself on the Palm Beach social scene. And being a young guy, I was sort of enamored by his success. We started hanging out, and, he said, man, you really should take Palm Beach Supercar Weekend, this event, to the next level. And I really sort of looked at him to advice. He was about 10 years older than me. From my understanding, he was, a very successful broker. His family had a ton of money. It was like the De Beers diamond fortune at one point we had heard. At one point we had heard had something to do with the Disney family. So basically, he had told me that, everything that we were making, or everything I was making at that point, should be reinvested into just growing at this insane level. So the next year event, the 2008 event, was really inspired by just thinking big. So we decided to close the entire waterfront of downtown West Palm Beach, and we were planning to have 200 supercars from around the world. And what was wild was we were able to attract brands like Koenigsegg, Spyker, all of these new supercar brands to display their cars for the first time at our event. And we had this insane idea to host it during the Ferrari Cavallino weekend. So you had all of this exposure with vintage Ferraris, then you had this supercar show, and it was just this big success. Now, we raised a lot in sponsorship dollars. He wasn't technically a business partner yet, but he advised me that, listen, we need to think big. We need to invest like hundreds of thousands into, luxury VIP bathrooms. We built these insane VIP tents that had, champagne flowing, caviar flowing. We had one of the best interior decorators in Palm Beach at the time actually designed these VIP tents that each tent, I think, was like $50,000 or $60,000 to produce. The bathrooms were like $40,000 to produce. But really, I was not that worried because he was a really optimistic guy. And he said, don't worry, if we don't raise the money through sponsorships, I'm going to make a major investment in the company. We're going to become partners, and we'll put millions behind this thing. So I was very excited. We were generating a ton of press. We're on the covers of magazines, covers of newspapers. We were really sort of everywhere. So this event it happened, and it was a huge success. We had thousands of people attend the event. At one point, I believe this 2008 event had like 12,000 or 15,000 people. But unfortunately, our expenses were so high that the event was a loser financially. But in the public's eye, it was actually a huge success. And I was struggling financially, just trying to keep up with everything. We were spending way more than the event was actually producing. And I was trying to sort of emulate this guy and be this flashy guy and, have cars and parties and, young girls and all these things that you sort of, you start to believe you're a celebrity in your own right. And I was pretty much a cocky jerk at that point. And then we decided after this event to actually sponsor one of the best polo teams in the world. Somehow, the investment was actually on my personal credit cards. I wasn't even smart enough at the time to actually set up an LLC. Everything was just in my name, and I didn't know any better. My parents had gone through a very bad divorce, so I had moved out. I was on my own. I did not finish college, and I really didn't have any great mentors besides this guy. And it was sort of weird because, weird stories would start to come out that, he'd try to buy a car and he didn't have all the cash and he was financing this. And all these things started to just sound really weird. At one point, while we were having these massive events at Polo, some of this guy's friends started to tell me, how are you supporting all this financially? And I'm like, well, no, this gentleman's going to make a large investment and we'll be fine. He's promised us, a couple million, not to worry about anything, just keep growing this. All his, childhood friends said, that's not going to happen. And I tried to ignore it. When you're this far down a rabbit hole, and your entire life is sort of on this, climax of success or failure, you sort of just drive through all the warning signs. And that's what I did as a 21-year-old guy at the time. So the next year of our supercar show started to come, and this was 2009. It was sort of an exciting moment. We're planning this. We're raising sponsorship dollars. And, I kept hearing all these murmurs of disasters. I was in financial disaster at the time. I was actually about to lose my condo. I was about to lose my car. I had this disaster of an issue with Ed's Gallardo. So I had all these issues coming to me at once. And I was sort of waiting for this investment money to come or something to happen. And the investment money never came. And then we started to have to write checks for planning this new event. Closing the streets was $10,000, and gating off the streets was another $20,000. These VIP tents were $50,000. All these things started to culminate, and we had no money. I had no money, and apparently my so-called business partner, who was not actually even officially a business partner, he didn't have any money either. So I didn't want to believe it was a fraud. I truly believed somehow this miracle was going to happen. And looking back, I'm actually glad everything did implode. I was trying to save everything, hoping that, this event was going to, we were going to sell a bunch of tickets. We were going to make a bunch of sponsorship money. And really, the event had the potential to make a couple $100,000 and a couple $100,000 in sponsorships. But the reality is we're spending way more than what we're actually making. One day, in the midst of all this, I was actually bartending at a celebrity charity event for the Nat King Cole Foundation. Natalie Cole was there and all these important people. And, I was sort of proud at the time. I was really sort of cocky. And, even though my life was crumbling, I still had this attitude and arrogance about me. And I really believed everything was going to work out. I see these cops walk into this restaurant, thinking in my head, oh my God, somebody hit my car or something happened. They're like, has anyone seen John Temerian? I'm like, oh, that's me. They're like, you have the right to remain silent. So I was put in handcuffs. I was put into the back of a car. I'll never forget this moment. And in the cop car, the song, I Can't Get No Satisfaction, was playing. It was a Rolling Stones song. And I'm sitting there like this. And I'm just thinking, my life can't get worse than this at this moment. I have no money. I have basically an event that is imploded. It had this huge success, but we had no money. I have a business partner or so-called business partner that is a total fraud. My family is a disaster. I'm losing my condo. All these things are happening. But I actually started to laugh and I said, okay, this is where I restart my life, I guess. It can't get worse than this. And I'll never forget, the cop was like, what are you laughing about? I was like, I don't know. I just feel like everything's going to be okay, but it can't get worse than this. So this is the day I'm going to restart my life. So between 2007 and 2008, we had probably spent $600,000 to $700,000. We didn't actually really probably have that money, and that debt ended up on me. I accumulated probably around $300,000 in debt that I recently, about 4 or 5 years ago, probably paid almost everything off. But it took me years to recover. But it was this great reminder to always do the right thing and sort of be humble and remain humble. Probably the most humbling moment was that it was the charges, this grand theft of writing a bad check. It was actually to a hotel. We rented the hotel for a fashion show for Supercar weekend, and that check bounced. And because I was a sole proprietor, I actually was arrested, and the charges were filed with me. It was grand theft, and it actually made the front page of the paper. And it talked about me being a party promoter, and it made the front page of Palm Beach Post and Palm Beach Daily News. So to have basically all of my peers immediately see this and sort of my fall from grace and sort of, being on the cover of a magazine for good things and then being on the cover of a newspaper for bad things, you really realize what's important in life. The charges stayed with me, even though they were expunged. I got the charges dropped. I made a whole on the debt, and the judge cleared everything because it was my only time being arrested. And even though it was expunged from my record, it stayed with me until recently, where when I was actually going for our massive floor plan with our current bank, it came up. So imagine it. I think it's so important to realize, if you're a young person listening to this, that the decisions you make at 18, 19, 20, 20, whatever it is, can stay with you for the rest of your life. And I think that's one of the things that today, if I can teach anything to my kids or young people out there, that always remember that certain decisions, whether it takes a moment, can stay with you for the rest of your life.
When you get a ticket, no matter where it happens, it's more important than ever to fight every one. And the perfect partner in that fight is the Ticket Clinic. When you get a ticket, you're facing costly insurance premium increases, points on your license, fines, risk of suspension, jail time, and they can help you avoid all of that. They've got offices in Florida and in California, but they can help you fight a ticket through their network of attorneys no matter where in the United States you get one. You can text a picture of your ticket to 305-305, or you can check them out now at the link in the description below. So thank them for their support of VINwiki, of CarTrek, and fight your ticket with the Ticket Clinic.